Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here, back at it again. Make sure to leave a comment today on your red flags that you've noticed in your games. It could be a DM or it could be a player. It don't really matter. I want to know what you guys and gals out there see and think is a red flag, because today we're going to discuss that. DMs, what are your red flags? Part 2. People who talk shit about their previous groups. In my experience, people who feel the need to crap on their old D&D group are usually the problem, and will probably become the problem in your game. Also, anyone who says they want to fight or work against the party is an immediate red flag. A player who can't respect my decisions as a DM, a player who can't play with a team, a player who doesn't want to engage at all but only to be silent in the background, a player with no will to stay in character, a player not able to learn the basics given enough time, and a player who didn't earn the 4 to 10 hours I put in the game outside of it actually running it every week. Extremely traumatized characters to the point of them being no help in game. I'm cool with traumatized characters, but I had a player who, every game, would create someone with tons and tons of abuse in their backstory without even checking if I was okay with it first. Also had the same player drop completely unfitting character backstory on me mid-session. Not even during a break. I was halfway through an interaction with another player. I run homebrew, and there was no consultation on whether the backstory was a good fit for the world. It wasn't. And in the realm of something I wasn't comfortable with, it wasn't abuse featured heavily. This honestly sounds like either a cry for help or a signal that this player was not right in the head. Either way, getting them out of the group is probably a good thing, and honestly, we here at MrRipper just hopes that they got whatever the help they needed. And for me personally, yeah, just make sure to check in on them, see if they're actually okay, and encourage them to seek help if required. Characters who either have no positive or negative traits. No positive traits signals a murdering rampage about to ensue, and no negative traits means they're going to argue when they can't do anything and everything that they want when an NPC doesn't react how they should. I would even argue that unless the player is very open about why their character doesn't have any of these traits and what their intent is for the character's growth, it's worth cautioning the player against doing so. It's difficult to enjoy playing a character who doesn't have much roleplay potential, either turning good after being a bad person, or finding out the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows and having to live with that knowledge if they're a bit sheltered and innocent. Some here on the MrRipper team have played both of these types of characters, and both can be very fulfilling. Everyone is being very specific, but mine is ignoring Session 0 expectations or expectations added after Session 0. For example, if we can't have a session due to the lack of players, I expect to know ahead of time. On top of that, I put the onus on players who couldn't make the session to reschedule. Failure to do either of those puts them on my potential to replace. I also expect players to share screen time. If one player acts too much or too little, I will try to shift the screen away or towards them. Attempts to circumvent my effort are a red flag. Really, the Session 0 violations are the big ones. And here at the MrRipper team, I will say, anytime I have actually played, I've usually stayed in the back because I don't like to be, I guess, a detriment to the actual campaign or to the thing that I'm in. And a lot of the times, the DMs I've actually encountered are really good and try to get me back in the limelight, despite some of the other players protesting. Usually it's just one or two problematic players, but more often than not, it's good to have a DM that's willing to do that, so proud of you. Players who are unreliable, especially about scheduling. Recently had a player who is no longer in the group, who we had to reschedule for twice because they didn't read our group messages until the day of the session. 3 times they also canceled an hour or less before, leaving me to scramble to adjust my homebrews and counters. Pretty much my main requirement for players is reliability. We've heard this one before in the last video that we've done, and it bears a repeating session here because it's such a vital thing. We as DMs don't have a problem if a player can't make a session. Life happens. We know it. Happens to us too. We can plan around that player missing the game if we know about it ahead of time, and no one is going to be mad about it. But if you tell me you're interested in playing, and you then consistently either don't show up or cancel out minutes before, yeah, how can I believe you actually care about that? A DM has a lot on their plate with all the various things they have to do for a session prep and making sure they handle all their players' needs. But for us, feeling like our players don't even care about our games, they actually sap the energy out of everything we do. If they don't care, why the hell are we bothering? So, don't be this player, please. If you're not interested, please say so, and if your scheduling won't let you participate regularly, you might have to drop out and come back when your schedule opens up. But anything at all is better than becoming the player who makes the DM and the other players hate having you at the table because you're not ever there and they can't rely on you. Applying to my game with a pre-made character when I specifically requested people not to. Asking for homebrew stuff right away. Basing your entire character around some shit joke that you think is funny but will get old after one session. Trying to cheese the game mechanics to be OP or antagonize the game master. One of our crew wanted to touch on the first point. I have a ton of character concepts I've already prepared, and many I've fleshed out on character sheets. I also have characters I've played in previous campaigns that died out before I really got the chance to see how their story finished. Whenever I join a campaign and the DM says they don't want a pre-made character, I'll show them some of my concepts and ask them if they fit in the world, then work with the DM on re-rolling stats and items as appropriate. That way, we both get what we want. The DM gets to make sure that my character fits in the world and the party, and I get to keep my character concept relatively true to what I've had in my head.
Hey, I'm the main character.
I had a player who wanted everyone to focus on her roleplay of flirting with an unnamed NPC at a party for 10 plus minutes, and got genuinely upset when someone wanted to shift to something else. Running theme here seems to be players wanting to hog the spotlight, and it's understandable. It's the DM's world, but it's also our story as players too. That being said, it's the player's story, that's plural, mind you, not just your character's story. It's also a great feeling when you watch your character grow alongside the party, especially if they have a close friendship with someone else in the party. And then that someone does something great, and you get to watch it both in and out of character because your character is along for the ride and letting them do their thing. Man, some of those are the best moments in the whole world. It's like Stand By Me. I've had the luxury of playing with very pleasant people, so my brothers are nothing in comparison. What has annoyed me is when players think they understand something, but their understanding is incorrect. And then they act based on that wrong interpretation, expecting a specific thing to happen, only to get salty when I rule as the rules say.
If he is frightened, he runs away, right?
Players that misinterpret spell/ability descriptions consistently. You can usually tell if it's on purpose or not. New players obviously get a pass, but I've DM'd for someone once and you could tell that in the other game they played in, the DM just let them get away with basically anything. Here's a good reminder for players here too. Sometimes what is allowed at one table ain't allowed at another. Every DM has their own style. Some allow for certain levels of rule bending, others are much more strict in that regard. Make sure you understand what kind of game you're getting into before you join. And if it's not what you're used to, you may have to adjust either your own expectations or just find another lobby altogether. But that can be a good thing though to adjust. Sometimes we get into a rut of playing a certain way and it gets stale after a while. A new table with a new set of challenges as a player can sometimes break you out of that and even show you a more fulfilling way to play. Just saying, I roll X, and throwing the dice. No character description and no waiting for DM check-in just gets on my nerves. Players who whine about everything, not because they're not enjoying the game either, but just to do it. Had one player who, I guess, thought being whiny was a fun personality trait. We all slowly stopped talking to her. She and I got into one seriously heated discussion, and I never spoke to her again. Hey, that's actually a pretty good timing for that one because, honestly, you don't want someone at your table who just wants to be that cute little terror monster. Nah, if you're an adult, that attitude has to stop. aggressive insistence that they should be allowed to roll to try something, even if I'm telling them not to, or saying they can't, or I'm not okay with it. To clarify, for an example, a former friend I was trying to play with tried to insist that he should be allowed to roll for a full set of +2 armor and weapons during character creation. What? Because that's what D&D is about? No, that's not. He rolls even though I'm telling him no, and of course he rolls a nat 20. Then insists that it means he gets everything he wants. During our first session, he searches town to see if he can find a bottomless bag in a portable hole. I tell him that's not how it works. He rolls anyway, it's a 20. He won't listen to me and starts saying everyone in town has to do what he wants or he'll put the hole in the bag, destroying the universe. What the hell? That campaign never made it past session 1, and it was the most frustrated I've ever been running a game. I can see why that guy is a former friend on that note. Good riddance, too. Sounds like a real grade A asshole. Seal of approval and everything. Players who don't want to show you their character sheet. Players who argue about rolling their stats in front of you. But I rolled them at home. I promise he's good and legit. Players who want to make their character based off the higher level character I played in my friend's game. They're really cool, too. Players who try to roll before you ask them to roll anything. Hey, we just had one like that in the stories above. And they try to tell you if they actually do the action. Players who try to tease or harass other players, especially women and minority players. Who the fuck does that? Players who attack a non-hostile NPC in the first few minutes of play. Yeah, okay, take all those people and just toss them out of the house. Just like kick them clean out. If they're on a Discord call, try to, just pretend that you're just bricking them off the internet by just, deleting them and blocking them on Discord. Ugh, fuck people like that. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here. What's your red flag, everybody? I really want to know what's something that you see in D&D or Pathfinder or whatever that is a really nasty red flag. It could be something really specific too. Trust me, I want to know these things. So leave it in the comments, or if you'd like, you can go on our subreddit r/MrRipper too. But trust me, we look at the comments just as much. All that interaction is juicy to us. And be sure, if you like the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and to check us out everywhere and anywhere. All of our links to our socials are in the description below, along with mine too, Brian Von VA, where you can find me on my own website and, well, enjoy me anytime, anywhere while I'm streaming, tweeting, or making content randomly. I always try to end things on a happy note too, and I just want to say this. I know that a lot of people can be pretty frustrated in D&D with that player who gives off those red flags. But hey, listen, I'm going to teach you one simple trick. The best trick I've ever learned, the very first word that I even learned is the word no. If somebody is being a prick in your game, just don't troll them, don't be a bully, just say no. If they start getting lippy, say, look, if you want to stay with us, you're going to have to be good. If you can't do that, if you can't get along with us, get out. If they still continue, just boot them out and be done with it. Because it's better on you. It's a better feeling to know that you took the high road rather than made some epic move of pranking them, trolling them, and then getting rid of them. Now, a lot of you are obviously smart enough to do that. But I want to say that you don't have to worry about like your friends hating you for it or your family hating you for it. Who gives a shit? You go to bed with yourself. And I want all of you that are listening in to feel like you're a good goddamn person when you do. Because I love each and every one of you in my own way. I really do. And I don't want any of you to taint yourselves with that bullshit just over some jackass trying to be a smart aleck. You're all better than that, and I really believe that. So from me to you, to hell with trolls, be safe, be happy, and I'll see you next time.